Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Recruiters with No Limits, always live and never scripted. I'm here with my sidekick and co-host, John Ruffini. Johnny, what's up, brother?
Mr. Richard, good to see you.
And look who we have below. The one and only, I got to introduce him right now, ASA President and CEO, Richard Wahlquist. Yeah,
welcome,
my man.
Sir, welcome.
Hey, Richard. Hello, John. Looking forward to seeing you in less than 2 weeks.
That's right.
Vegas.
So right off the bat, Richard, before we even start, Johnny has something he has to say. He never got this in the mail. Look at this.
I was so upset.
And I got the coin too to prove it. Look at this, baby.
Richard showed me his chip. Joyce Russell showed me her chip, and I'm like, I never got a chip. So
John, here's the good news. You know people, and you know people who have chips.
Oh.
John, we're going to hook you up.
I like it. No, we are excited to return to Vegas, and it's always great to see you and the ASA staff. Anything that you're most looking forward to about this year's conference?
Well, it really starts with the people, right? And as you may have heard from some of our team, we're delighted. We're on track to have one of the biggest shows in the history of the organization. Right now, it looks like we're guiding toward over 2,000 industry professionals from the United States and around the world, and an expo hall that's also going to be the largest we've ever had, with the biggest expo of products and services designed specifically for staffing, recruiting solutions companies. We'll have over 175 booths.
Wow.
And we're going to have a lot of fun on the expo as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
That expo hall is always a blast. You know that. I mean, I love how there's drinks. Everybody just feels free. It's great networking.
Well, and we try to make it fun. So, I mean, there are some pillars of staffing world. Of course, it's education, right? And networking, power networking. And as I'm talking to individuals from the C-suite and people at all levels in all staffing firms of all segments, I mean, they're really, really, really looking forward to the networking. Big questions top of mind for everyone as we're turning to, looking at 2023. How are we going to do our strategic planning? And, I think the consensus opinion is that that old strategic plan that we used to do, I remember some of the visioning projects that we would go through, tell us what the association, the industry is going to look like in 2025, in 2030, and 2035.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we're doing scenario planning. We're planning out for the next quarter and the next couple of quarters. And right now, top of mind issue is really, just around the economy. And, it's slowing down. Is the Fed going to really screw things up and really put the brakes on the economy, driving up unemployment levels? Hurting the people who we've been providing employment to. That's certainly one tool in Jay Powell's toolbox. We've suggested there's some other tools that he and the boys and girls on Capitol Hill ought to be considering, besides just driving up unemployment as a way of bringing down inflation.
Right. And I imagine that'll be a hot topic of conversation in Vegas in a couple of weeks, because it's impacting our whole industry.
It'll be a very, very hot topic, and it's related to the number one up at night issue. Certainly, since we began emerging from our caves after the lockdown in February, March, April of 2020. And that's recruiting. The numbers have gotten a little better in the last month, but just a little bit. And so our most recent data points indicate, and you know this, you're in this world, and everyone that's listening understands, we got 10 million job openings across virtually every sector. We only got 6 million people who are self-identified as unemployed and looking for work. This means tremendous opportunity for our industry. But as you know, it's also tremendous a period of frustration. over the past 2 years, I've not talked to more CEOs than during any other period of my career, where we've had more open requisitions that customers can't fill on their own, and we're having a tough time filling for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, it's the great resignation, it's the great reshuffle, it's the great, we believe, reset, and we think that there's a role that we can play, but we just have too many people on the sidelines. You know, a big focus for us here in Washington, D.C. is working with policymakers saying, hey guys, come on, there's more than one tool in that toolkit. We need to continue to get people off the sidelines, transition them from being dependent on social welfare programs,
Yes.
being independent, being taxpayers, being proud, the stuff that we do, which is to, you know, connect people with opportunity, making them independent by giving them jobs. And so a big focal point of, you know, our discussions with the administration, with the Department of Labor, with the Department of Education have been around the reskilling, the upskilling, the training of existing workers and those on the sidelines to help get them back in, because it's going to be a headwind on economic growth in the United States of America long term.
That's
And you
something
said
that
real quick, you said what, up all night? How about gray hair too, guys? I've been getting so much gray
Hey,
hair
at
this
least we're
year.
holding on to it, you know.
yeah, we've all got it. Knock on wood.
Sorry, Johnny, go ahead, brother.
No, that's okay. So it's interesting because you know, a lot of people, those that are not involved with ASA, don't realize that that's a lot of what goes on behind the scenes that we don't see taking place, and that's shaping the policies in DC. I don't know if you can comment, Richard, or not, but how receptive has the Hill been to these discussions as far as, hey, let's open up the toolbox a little bit more and let's get some of these people to work?
Sure. So it goes back to when this administration came into power, and yeah, we work with whatever administration the American people give us. And the good news is that despite the tremendous polarization of not just the U.S. society, I do a fair amount of work internationally, and it's occurring all over developed societies, all over the world, quite apart from the current geopolitical angst and geoeconomic challenges by the supply chain shortages triggered by certainly the war in Ukraine. Jobs is not a Democrat issue, a Republican issue, an independent issue. You know, jobs is completely nonpartisan. So when this administration came in, and we met with our new Secretary of Labor shortly after he was installed, we came in, you know, promoting a jobs agenda. His number one area of interest was around reskilling, retraining, and bringing people off the sidelines, and the stuff that we have been actually focusing on inside of our individual companies and certainly here in Washington. And it's helping people to future-proof their careers. And our message is pretty simple. That whole notion of a career ladder that some of us heard about when, you know, we were going to school, and you know, saying, now you got to make your choice. You're going to get on this ladder, and it's going to be a singular vertical progression. Well, that never really existed to the extent that people were trying to make us believe that it did. And certainly we think that we should be talking about things like career lattices, and we should be talking about how individuals are going to be focusing on their portfolios. So it's on portfolio workers and it's on portfolio work. And it's really on the definition of job security. Job security doesn't mean I work for a blue chip company. Job security doesn't mean I work for a company that blew out top and bottom line earnings and revenue last year. Job security means that I have got skills that are in need in the market this afternoon. And of course, we've seen all of the data. I mean, within virtually every occupation, automation, technology, AI, deep learning, machine learning, they're changing the way we work. And that means, and this is not intuitive stuff. I mean, you got to learn it. And so we got a lot of members that are really focusing on this individually and in concert with clients, and some of the work we've done with the federal government. And at ASA, we're delighted that one of the many recognitions that we're going to be sharing with our attendees is around our Elevate Awards. And Elevate Awards are really best practices, right? In upskilling, in retraining, and really investing in people. It's something that happened worldwide, but especially in America over the last several decades. we had a pretty good supply of young, fresh faces that were at the beginning of their careers. And rather than invest in the folks that had been, mid-stage or later stage of the career, yeah, maybe we just bring in a new crop. Uh, not a good philosophy on so many levels. And let's just start with company culture, right? Uh, Treating people as commodities, as disposable resources, is a death knell to every company these days, and especially over the past couple of years, as we've knowledge workers, those that have been fortunate enough to be at a career that could work remotely. And people think in big cities and urban areas like Washington, D.C., well, that's almost everybody. It's not the case. I mean, the data indicate that it's roughly 2/3 of all jobs just don't lend themselves to remote work. You got to do them in person, and it's all of the service industries, all of the delivery industries, healthcare. I mean, that field very, very, very well, and it's been very, very good times for us, as we discussed last year. We're very proud of the role that we've played in recruiting and deploying essential workers to keep supply chains open, and essential workers on the front lines as we've been fighting the war against COVID. In healthcare institutions, and certainly with those supply chains that have supported the healing of America as we get to the next stage.
It's interesting because I hear, you hear conflicting reports, but a lot of reports are coming out now as we head into the twilight of 2022, that 2023, I think it was the IMF put out a statement that they forecast a world recession next year. And it's such an unknown, and our industry goes lockstep with the economy. And it's all about, we want a thriving economy, we want opportunities. And to your point, it's funny, everything you just said rings true. I forget where I was, but there was someone that was giving a keynote somewhere, and this is going back, I'm talking 15 plus years, way ahead of his time. And his message to the audience was, don't worry about being employed, focus on being employable. And that's exactly in line with what you were saying. It's not so much that, because yeah, the people today, the chances of you doing what, our generation, our parents' generation, go with a company, spend your whole career, get the gold watch after 40 years, call it a day. That doesn't happen anymore. And it's all about the individual taking control of their career. And you're right, it's not just about advancing up the ladder, it's advancing in different ways across the ladder, where you can cross train, build up your skills, become even more valuable to more organizations and more people. It's all about having those skills.
Absolutely. And to your point about, a lifetime with a single company, I've got a couple of grown sons who are millennials, and they looked at their grandfather who worked for the same corporation for 37 years. To them, this is a job purgatory. I mean, maybe they've got a little problem with attention deficit disorder, but they can't imagine, being with a single company unless it's one that they developed themselves. And both of them have got a little bit of the entrepreneurial gene. So I
Nice.
expect that will be in their future. But you're quite right. We need to be responsible for our careers. But the surveys that ASA has done in the past year, broad surveys that we do with the Harris organization, not a surprise. Most employees are self-aware enough to identify that they've got some gaps and that they're going to need to do some fill-ins either yesterday, today, or tomorrow. And most of them expect that they're going to have employers that are going to put their shoulder to the wheel and really help them. And that means to provide those with the professional development opportunities. And again, it's just a different mindset. Instead of a disposable workforce, it's a workforce that we can invest in. And increasingly, I think, as we come out of the sea changes that occurred during COVID, as so much of the world was shut down, the sea changes, which really is the shift to hybrid work. For those knowledge workers that are able to do it. You all see the headlines. You've experienced it firsthand. We've got some of the premier employers in the world, like Apple, for example. We've seen their amazing campuses, those spaceship campuses. They've done everything under the sun and more. I mean, most people, saw the benefits and the perks of being working at the corporate headquarters, and you just thought, wow, everything from the baristas to the gymnasiums to the massage therapist, and on and on and on and on.
Why would
And
you
yet,
not want to work there?
and yet, when Tim Scott announced that, we think that it's time now for people to come safely back to work, and I'm delighted to tell you that we're going to be a progressive company and that we're going to offer a hybrid schedule where you'll just need to come to the office 3 days a week. Employees formed a kind of a workers coalition, and they sent some very, very harsh messages to management about the lack of trust. We've been doing this for you for 2.5 years. Why all of a sudden you tell us we've got to come back into the office? About the disconnect between values, the values of the pre-COVID era and the values of today. And there are few things more important for companies and certainly for recruiters than in getting the match right. And it's not just the technical fit, that's actually the easier part, right? And so we've got to be looking at that alignment with mission, purpose, and values. And so Tim Scott and the execs were rocked on their heels. We've seen it in company after company. A couple of weeks ago, New York Times said, hey, we're bringing people back to the New York Times to work for us. And the employees of the New York Times said, hold on just a minute. You didn't ask us if we wanted to come back. And so management's got to be much more employee centric than ever before. And I think we're all kind of figuring out what that's going to look like. I think for our industry, there's a real play here because two dynamics occur. Certainly on the part of talent. Talent wants more flexibility, a little bit more of that, that balance thing that they always talked about, or blend, I think is probably a better way to put it. We're blending our lives now. They aren't just kind of chunks that punch a clock at 9 and punch a clock at 5. I've really never worked in an environment like that. Talent wants flexibility. Management understands that they need higher degrees of flexibility to drive efficiency and productivity, to kind of weather economic upturns and downturns. In our industry, if nothing else, flexibility has been a hallmark for us. So as companies large and small are examining the how, when, and why of work, we think we've got a really, really significant opportunity to continue to leverage as an industry as we help companies get their arms around state-of-the-art talent optimization for the entire workforce ecosystem. This is the internal employees that are kind of the folks that have the core knowledge and institutional memory that drives the organization's products and services. And then the bands on the outside of contractors and flexible workers that can be brought in as needed. Both need to feel as though they're part of the organization while they're part of the organization, because the other dynamic that we're all really, really much more mindful of than ever before are the engagement levels in the United States. Most recent,
very low.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a disengagement. So 32% of all American workers are engaged. These are golden. These are the folks that treat the company like they've got an equity interest in it, and they're looking for opportunities to help these companies grow. That's only 32%. And then you got 18% that are actively disengaged. These are unhappy people. They say not nice things about the company, about their coworkers. And if you think about the top grading analogy around talent, there's diseased wood on all of our family trees and probably all of our corporate trees as well. And then you can't really do much with those actively disengaged, according to the Gallup data. And their chairman, Jim Clifton, who I've had occasion to know and work with for a number of years, he says you got to identify them, and you really got to help them find another place to work. Maybe they'll be happier. And then there's that middle group, and so that's about 50% of employees that aren't engaged, but they'll put the time in. This is the group that a lot has been written about recently, the so-called silent quitters.
Oh, the quiet quitting, yeah.
And the good news there is that the data indicate that those folks actually can be moved up that engagement progression, that engagement continuum. You can take the not engaged and make them actively engaged, or you can screw it up and you can cause more of them to become actively disengaged. real play for the industry is bringing best practices in terms of employee culture and employee engagement to clients of all sizes, but especially small and mid-sized clients, where we can bring the best practices of organizations of all sizes and share them with them as they're trying to optimize and retain and develop talent.
Good stuff.
It's interesting when you look at, I think coming out of COVID, many organizations have to redefine what their culture is because it's different. To your point, it's hybrid, it's remote, it's people back in the office, it's a little bit of all of the above. So it's kind of like, all right, well, that changes because you no longer have the inner office dynamic like they used to. Now, in some organizations, one would argue that, especially if you're new to an organization, there's a huge benefit to being in an office with other personnel so that you can learn from them, grow with them, and kind of start that growth within the company. It's much harder, in my opinion, to have a remote employee from the get-go feel like they're part of something when they are always remote and never with folks. But with the engagement surveys and the data that you mentioned from Gallup, that always is not, well, it's alarming to me how many are not engaged. But that 50% in the middle, how much of that, I think, and I want your input on this. There's some thought that some of those folks are kind of sitting back on the sidelines and waiting for the company to say, hey, here's what we have to offer you. And while the company needs to do that, I think part of that onus also has to be on the individual to say, this is what I need. And kind of a little bit of accountability for their own development as well as relying on the company. Thoughts?
I couldn't agree more with you, John. And this is where we kind of talk about leadership, and a principle of leadership is development of teams. We added 2 people to our staff yesterday, one of whom was living remotely, not in the DC area at the time that some of us interviewed him, because he just graduated from college. And so when I met Max yesterday morning when he came in, first reaction was, "You're a lot taller than you looked on that screen." So I'm 6'3". I'm 6'3". I think Max is 6'4", and you
I was
can't.
going to say, you're tall.
You can't really tell. That's really not
Power
consequential.
forward.
What's consequential is this is Max's first experience out of college. He's had some working experience, but never really full-time like this. How is Max going to kind of get a feel for what culture is if he's not a part of it? We can do a lot of things on video, and we do. We've got a hybrid work environment here at the American Staffing Association. We're embracing that flexibility that I talk about all the time. But for Max, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for him to have those little sidebar conversations in our lunchroom, in our break room, in the terrace upstairs outside with this nice fall weather that we're beginning to experience. And he's also going to be able to showcase his skills. He's going to be able to network within his department, but with the other departments. And he's going to be able to sit there and he's going to listen to some of us as we're sit here and, dial in to conversations like this, hear us on the phone, see us in video chats, and, draw some impressions. And he'll be able to, then actually say, hey, have you guys thought about doing things this way or that way? And he's delighted to be part of the world of work. When we interviewed him, unlike so many candidates that, we've met some and we hear about them from our members who have said, I only want to consider remote jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, if I hear that from somebody that's at the beginning of their career, I've been cautioned by my executive coach to keep my inner parent sublimate, but I can't help it. I want to develop people and young people in particular, and I just have to, the dad in me comes out and says, what do you want to do with your life? It's not going to be working in a small studio apartment and just kind of engaging with the world. Video. We are hardwired as human beings to be part of tribes, not individuals in caves. And to your question, John, so I think that it's leaders have got to demonstrate leadership. It's not really tough love; it's just resolute. And with that, demonstrating calm resolve, really focusing on empathy, on understanding that we all have lives and we've got challenges, and we're concerned about each other. But we have to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that we are not as fragile as sometimes the media wants to make it seem like. The world has become fragile and afraid and not resilient. It's like talent. That spark exists in all of us. And I don't care if you're the most introverted person in the world. You don't have to live in fear every moment. And I think that it is just really engaging with other people, saying, look, we're all here together. We all went to that big football game. We all went to the sporting event. We had karaoke night together. The things that have really enriched the fabric of humanity since the beginning of time, and to just kind of as we do with those of us that are parents, you try to instill a sense of confidence. And if there's something that we've lost during COVID, I think that it has been that resilience, and there has been a little bit too much fragility. This is up to leaders to lead.
It's a great point.
Got it.
And I respect highly what you did with Max. And what I think that was different there is from the sense of leadership. I think you made it clear to Max the why factor, like why it was important for him to be in person and embrace the culture and not be 100% remote versus a company that just says, well, this is the way it's going to be. And they don't take the time to explain what benefit it's going to be to the employees. And sometimes I think that's what the disconnect is they're not taking the time to explain why it's important for the individuals now to do this so that later in their career it will benefit them.
You're so right. It's about putting your arm around them and saying, hey, come with me and let's rock it out together. I mean, that's what it's all about. Coaching and players.
Can I just add that while we have done a lot of work over the past couple of decades on generations and generational differences, I've never been as much of a believer. It's kind of like signs of the zodiac, right? Well, just because we can divide us up into 12 segments doesn't mean that we all have things in common because we're all Virgos or Leos. Just because somebody was born between this period of time and this period of time doesn't mean that you can absolutely generalize. Certainly, they're shaped by the events of the time and the day. But here's young Max, brand new college graduate, and I will tell you, as Jim Collins said a few years ago when we had him at one of our conferences, and he was doing a private master class. He teaches at all of the military academies, and he's more encouraged than the demographic data would sometimes suggest, that we've got best and brightest in every group. And if Max is emblematic of that generation, it's very, very encouraging. And what we need Max to just kind of walk the walk and be able to virally spread the message that here's it seems to be working for me to his friends. And
look at Max getting a shout out from the president.
Yeah. He's going to be. I hope he works out. He's going to be delighted.
I love it already. I have to connect with Max. Look at this. Hey, Richard, I got a question for you. The industry. What's your insight on the industry going forward? I mean, it seems like we're going to be staffing's booming right now. Companies will need us more and more, as I'm seeing, that never used us before. I think job security is here for the staffing industry. Do you agree?
Absolutely, and that'll be a real focal point for Staffing World. I mean, from the opening keynote session with a guy that we have to promote because no one's heard of Magic Johnson. And,
never, right?
What I've learned about Magic Johnson over the past couple of years is we were looking to bring him to one of our programs. What an amazing serial entrepreneur he is. He's going to talk about building teams. He's going to be talking about putting the right team together and working together as a team. And no better example than in the world of sports, where you might have the best superstar in the world, but if he is not a good teammate, and he's always looking to keep that basketball and not ever pass out that basketball, long term, he's probably not going to be the right individual for your team. But he's a serial entrepreneur, and he's got the Midas touch. I don't know who his advisors and investors are, but it turns to gold that he's doing a lot of good things in society, a lot of giving back. He's got one
Absolutely.
really cool initiative that's part of our industry. So he's got a company that he's been a part of and he's funded, and they actually are helping to source qualified minority candidates into corporations
Great.
across America. So it's
I mean,
right in our wheelhouse. Another big focal point again this year is going to be talking about what real inclusion looks like, and making that business case for inclusion. And I believe that it starts with inclusion. I know it's DEI, and diversity is incredibly important, but if you don't have an inclusive workplace, all of your efforts around creating diversity are going to fall apart because people aren't going to feel
Agreed.
welcome and they're
Yep.
not going to feel safe. So he's going to be giving us a big dose of that. And then the next morning, in an opening session keynote, I got the pleasure of interviewing three of the leading CEOs in the country from different segments. And so we've got the CEO of Randstad North America, we've got the
nice.
CEO of Insight Global, and we've got the CEO of EmployBridge, and all of them are just amazing leaders, and two of them, Billy with EmployBridge and Karen with Ronstadt, are bringing some interesting perspectives to us because both of them actually came into the industry in, I think it's 2019. So we're going to get a little bit of an outsider perspective, and I've asked them to be provocative. This is your up at night issues. Here are some of the things we're doing really well. We better keep doing those, and here are some things that we need to stop doing. And most important, here are some of the opportunities. To see your question, absolutely. Businesses are going to run on people. It may be in one of our lifetimes that individuals will be rendered redundant because of all of the big advances in technology. I'm not afraid of the robots coming. I think technology is our friend. It is a tool. I've seen all of the dystopian movies, and I am a big fan of science fiction. But our message has been, another big focal point at Staffing World is around this amazing, exploding world, exciting world of HR technology, HR acquisition technology, HR talent optimization technology, and of course the balance that we always want to maintain a strong focus on is the human touch. So it's all high
Got
tech
it.
and high tech.
Agreed.
love
Ours
it.
will always be a relationship business. I agree with you. The
Absolutely.
technology can complement what we do in wonderful ways, but heck, let's look back in the Wayback Machine when Monster first hit the market, and everybody thought that was going to be the end of recruiters. And
Yeah.
it seems that that's what they say
Never gone
with
away.
every evolution of technology, but now more than ever. And again, not to categorize demographics, but the newest generation that's coming into the workforce, the Zs, data says that they want that human interaction.
They love it, man.
So
With it
that's,
all the time. They love
that's
it.
good. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I can have the best AI in the world, and it can do a reasonably good job, or maybe a pretty good job, of helping with a first cut in terms of separating the mountain of
Hmm.
resumes. Back in the days when all companies had mountains of resumes, separating the wheat from the chaff. However, the easiest thing to kind of screen for is technical qualifications. And that isn't the beginning or the end of the story. There's got to be that fit piece. And whether
Yeah.
you're on an assignment for a week, a month, 6 months, or a year, you're being sourced into a direct hire position to be a part of that company. I can tell you, I haven't seen or heard of that AI that's actually going to do what the three of us are doing right now, which is
Right.
kind of getting a sense of each other. And honestly, there have been people I've interviewed, and I hope all employers do this. Sometimes you get a sense that maybe it isn't the right fit, and so you spend a little time trying to talk a candidate out of accepting the position because there may be a little bit of a disconnect. It is that extra special value add that all of the good recruiters I've known in my life do add, and it's by getting deeply engaged with the client, so they understand the job rec, but they also understand the company, and it's current and it's evolving culture. And while we're on that topic, and we're always beating the drum. Okay, clients, can we gently suggest that you absolutely rip up those job descriptions that you've been using for the past
Thank
decade?
you. Thank you.
You talk about requirements. Let's talk about the skills.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Why does every job start with must have a 4-year degree?
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that
there it is, right
It's
there.
kind of real
I love it.
disservice. done a
Could
real
not agree
service.
with you more. Yeah, we're on that
Yeah,
page
so
also.
we're
Oh,
banging that. So that'll be a big focus of Staffing World as we talk about the opportunities that we can make. You said this has been a good year for us. We just ran a graphic this morning in Staffing Today, our daily newsletter, that said that we've reached an all-time high by one of the metrics, and that's staffing penetration. So temporary help penetration. How many employees are working for staffing recruiting companies every day as a percentage of the total non-farm workforce? And it's edged up. It's actually up over the last peak, and so we're up at 2.09. I tell our members and my colleagues around the world, we can do a better job of growing that pie, and herein lies an opportunity for us to work together, kind of check our competitive natures and tools at the door when we come together at a program like a Staffing World, and we say, how are we going to do our job better? How are we going to develop better leaders? We've got a pre-convention program that I'm so excited about. It's part of the Women in Leadership Initiative that we launched here a number of years ago. It's called Thrive, and it's really kind of self-explanatory. This is Thrive Live, and it's really about empowering women leaders in particular, but the things we're talking about apply across the board. We have got some of the most dynamic women in our industry that are going to be attending and speaking at this event. Men are allowed to come as well, and actually encouraged. They've given
thank
me the
you.
opportunity, my staff has, to kind of close the program with an interview of one of the most successful individual women business leaders, company founders, Janice Bryant Howroyd, who has been described widely as America's first Black female CEO running $1 billion company. So
Nice.
Janice
awesome.
has got amazing stories of an absolutely incredible career of creating opportunity and empowering more women leaders is part of inclusion and diversity. And we've got this group. Shout out to the lady leaders who wrote the book Together We Rise. Because what
Yes.
they've done is they've devoted all of the proceeds of their book to the ASA Scholarship Fund to allow women in companies across the country to attend Staffing World. So it's a great deal. I mean, you
It's a
get all
great group of ladies.
come to Staffing
Incredible.
World, and because of their generosity and how well that book is doing, another shout out. Check it out on Amazon. Together
Exactly.
We Rise. Incredible stories of women leaders. We've got 8 scholarship winners who will be with us at the
It's
Thrive event. This
outstanding.
is a pre-convention event. It starts on the afternoon of October the 24th and goes until the midday on the 25th. And Staffing World opens up the afternoon of the 25th.
Looking forward
Man,
to it.
that is good stuff here. Okay, let's show a video clip real quick, Richard. Let's check this out.
Now, why am I attending Staffing World this year? When I'll tell you, having gone to so many of these events, they just keep getting better and better every single year.
I'm attending Staffing World to grow and learn and increase my knowledge in the staffing industry and bring those ideas back home.
Both excited about networking and seeing what new tools are out there for my team and I.
The reason I like to go to Staffing World is just connecting with my peers across the industry, find out what's working for them, what's not working, picking up some tips.
I'm most excited for the sales and leadership breakout sessions.
I'm most looking forward to this year is the Thrive Live event. I really love hearing the insights and ideas from other female leaders that are there to elevate and inspire other women.
I want to learn about the new trends, the new technologies that are coming into our space. And I'm most excited about reacquainting and meeting new connections in our industry. I learned so much from everybody's experiences, and I can't wait to attend.
There it is.
There it
Love
is.
that video.
I love it too. And the final one is hanging out with the Staffy Shark and John. And
there you go. We're going to see the two of you very prominently. And so bring your 80s groove. You may have looked at the program. The first night, the welcome reception in the banquet hall is going to be kind of a throwback party to the 80s. So, if you got any of that 80s attire, what the heck's going on with your closet?
Hey, Richard, time out. I still wear that stuff every day. Come on, man.
You can rock it. So the staff has shown me kind of put me in the Wayback Machine. It was like, wow, those were colorful outfits and interesting hairstyles for both men and women.
That's no doubt. I was telling Richard earlier before we went live. I was an 80s person and had all that stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore, but I wish I did because I'd pull it out of the box.
Well, if you again, people, John. So one of the things we're going to be our vice president, government relations, Toby Mallara. He's an incredible advocate for the industry, but he's also one of the best, amateur DJs we've come across. So Tony's going to be spinning some tunes.
Nice.
That'll be on the opening reception. We'll have a little different theme in the banquet hall, the reception expo hall the next night. Lots of games. Literally, we've got an arcade and we have prizes. So we really want the attendees to have fun, but also kick the tires. There's just no better, world supermarket to, come into contact in one place under one roof, all the leading providers of goods and services, products that are designed to help our industry do what it does even better with higher degrees of efficiency. So we're looking forward to it.
I can't wait. So did you say arcade? Oh my, look
arcade,
out.
Yes, we got an arcade as well. You heard Richard. Yeah.
So Richard, you'll love this real quick before we end the show. When I have candidates come into my office, there's a skills test. You ready for it? It's Miss Pac-Man machine. I have one in my office. They have to play Miss Pac-Man with me. If you beat me, then you got a job. You got skills.
That's it. Well, we'll have to see. We got something like that. Maybe we can kind of go head to head.
Look at that. The challenge is on the table.
The challenge.
What should I say? I wasted a lot. I spent there was a lot of time with Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man.
You were building your skills.
There you go.
A lot of quarters going in the machine.
Self-investment.
I'll tell you what. I've got a 13-year-old grandson. Hand-eye coordination, and I'm just talking 2D games. He puts on those Oculus goggles. I got to get out of the way. Literally, something will get hurt. But these are skills that I have seen transfer themselves to the athletic field. I mean, there is just kind of a quickness. Glad I don't have to go head to head with this young man or these young women. Yeah, we'll have fun with that.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. Hey, Johnny, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Thank you so much, Richard, for taking time out of your schedule. We know you're busy. We're so fortunate to have someone as passionate as you are, the head of such an important organization, and the advocacy that you so passionately describe and talk about. Thanks for being a great leader to us and for, always looking out for everybody in the staffing industry, both employed and those that we are putting to work. We really appreciate all that you give and the time and commitment, and can't wait to see you at Staffing World. It's going to be a great time.
Well, thank you both for giving me the opportunity, and thank you to everybody that's tuning in here. I'm one of the lucky ones, and I hope you all feel that you're one of the lucky ones as well. For whatever reason, we ended up in this industry where, in addition to making a living, which is what they call it work, we actually do change people's lives every single day. And any one of you that ever done any recruiting or any matching has experienced that. And I never take it for granted. And I'm excited to get out of bed every morning. And we got a lot of challenges, but we're going to leverage even more opportunities, and looking forward to seeing the two of you in Vegas in a couple weeks.
Outstanding.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. Again, I'm going to leave it on this note here. Okay. Everybody knows Magic Johnson. There's one key word: showtime. Staffing World.
Thank you. Well done, Richard. Thank you.
Take care, guys. We'll see you later.
Take care.